Welcome to the Straight Red Card. Today on the show, you can almost call him a co-host of today's show because he's going to go through all the topics with us, and that is Simon Allen from Worldwide Soccer. And before we start, Simon, it's obvious you have a bit of an accent. So how did you end up in the U.S. of A.? And then, of course, a lot of transplants just can't stand the MLS. So what's your excuse? You love it.
I love it. I absolutely adore Major League Soccer. I was at the first game at the Rose Bowl. My dad sent me over to America when I was about 16 because he didn't want me in the soccer business. And so I showed him. And then that's it. And then when I came to America, there wasn't really much soccer going on, but I was like the one guy that was actually playing, and I found a bunch of guys and sort of got a couple of teams going, a couple of semi-pro teams going. And then when Major League Soccer started, I just cursed myself for being a little bit too old or just not good enough, and started commentating on it. And I saw it for what it was, absolutely our league. No matter where you're from, it's yours. I know you guys don't have one close by, but mine's in my own backyard, and I'm as close to that to the galaxy as I was to AFC Wimbledon or Chelsea. So
we're working on bringing one to our backyard too.
Yeah, AFC Wimbledon. Wow, that's taking it back. I mean, you must have been a little distraught when they became the MK Dons.
You got to understand the business. The MK Dons, that was actually going to happen way beforehand. If you sort of study the history of Wimbledon, that was in the works during the peak of Wimbledon. So
right.
It's distraught, but now there's two teams. Now there are two Wimbledon teams, in my opinion. So.
Well, I don't know if everybody sees it that way. So it's good you were open-minded about it.
Yeah, no one sees it that way.
So before we get going, Simon, can you tell us tell the folks where they can find your show?
Well, you can go to www.simonallensoccer.com. I've been doing a podcast since 2005. I don't think I've missed a week. And after you listen to this show, go over there and have a listen to my show, and then we both have the same philosophy, I think.
I love your show, and one of the reasons I started listening is you were U.S. based. You do cover a lot of U.S. soccer and MLS stuff, and you don't poop all over the MLS, which is nice.
No, never have. No. There's no point because there's so many Euro snobs out there anyway doing that job. I couldn't.
You can't do it any better. No.
Yeah.
Well, we don't need another additional. Yeah, no. We don't. No more piling on with the poop, as they say. But okay, well, let's get to the topics right away because there are some things going on in the soccer world, believe it or not. In fact, this is we're in the middle of the European transfer season, so a lot of things are happening, and we'll start with Robbie Rogers to Leeds. And I think there were some people, like when you look at the comments online, they're like, oh wow, Robbie Rogers to Leeds. How did that? I mean, can he handle that? Well, yeah. I mean, it's the championship, right? Robbie Rogers should be fine playing in a level down in England, don't you think? I'm going to take that as a no, Simon.
It depends on which Robbie Rogers shows up.
Yeah.
Well, listen. I've said this before many times. It's MLS likes to produce a couple of players each season that they sort of get a big Woodrow for, and they have to promote Major League Soccer as a viable sort of product and say, look, we're so good in America that we can produce a player like Robbie Rogers and send him overseas. But the problem is you can only send only a few, there's only a few great American players plying their trade. Landon Donovan is one in maybe 50 that can do what he does. Robbie Rogers is the poster child for Major League Soccer. He's got it in with Jurgen Klinsmann. They've known each other for a long time, and Major League Soccer is sort of touting him as a great player. And lo and behold, surprise, surprise, he's at Leeds.
He's a good player. He's not a great player. I think. Yeah. To be fair.
But again, Major League Soccer has to promote within
to
be considered, in the world a fantastic league. You and I believe it's a fantastic league, but people in England don't. And the only way they will is if Americans go over there and ply their trade. And unfortunately, not everyone's going to be brilliant. And and then you have to have friends in the business. So you have a friend like Jurgen Klinsmann who says, hey, go to Leeds, and suddenly he's at Leeds, and he's going to have to deal with Ramon Nunez, I think he's Honduran, who's going to whip his butt. He's going to have to deal with Danny Pugh, and he's got a lot of midfield players that are going to be, in contention for that spot. And will he get better? I don't know. Will he do well? Yeah, sometimes. Yeah.
I think it's fair to say he probably won't get much better. I mean, Robbie Rogers has been about where Robbie Rogers is for some time. He's not going to be a star, but I think he'll be adequate. I mean, that's kind of my view on it. Adequate.
Well, in all honesty, it's not necessarily that he has to get any better. He just has to get more consistent. I think his downfall as a player has really just been he's been really inconsistent.
Yeah.
And we saw he'll have great games for the Columbus Crew, and then he'll have unbelievably crappy games.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
true.
Just, like I said, it depends on which Robbie Rogers shows up. If he shows up, I mean, he's had all the potential in the world to be a decent player, to be a good player. He just has to show up and play.
Well, he had 2 goals last season, and I think he created like 6 or 7 goals for his teammates. That's probably not going to cut it in the Empower Championship. I think he'll have to step it up, because you're not going to go to Leeds and just be stagnant. You have to get better. So we'll have to wait and see if he does get better. If he doesn't, he'll be back in Major League Soccer, and he's a hero in Columbus anyway, right? So why even go?
Right. I mean,
that's the difference. I mean, there he has to show up every game, every practice, and work hard and succeed. Here, we don't have any better option. The Columbus Crew doesn't have any better options to replace him with at this point.
Right.
So it's a completely different boat for him. He has to show up from day one and start playing his ass off.
Right. Well, I don't see him certainly having any more or more impact than, say, Bobby Convey did when Bobby Convey was at his best. But all right, we're sticking to this theme because, Edson Buddle just went over. He's on trial now for Everton. And I mean, there's a team. I don't know if Edson Buddle can be much worse than Louis Saha has been and Tim Cahill have been as far as putting goals in the back of the net. I mean, does Edson Buddle have a good shot at this, Simon, at all?
Yeah, listen, Edson Buddle can surprise you. Like when he was playing for the Galaxy, I was his biggest critic. I'm like, why are we getting this complete loser to come on the squad and do things? I mean, there were so many times where there would be a perfect cross from David Beckham, and this guy it was a muppet. So, and then he surprised me. He said, oh, wow, he really got better, and the people around him made him better. Now, at Everton, will the players around him make him a better player? And that would be maybe key. And maybe, it's a step up from playing in weird German teams. Or wasn't he in a pub league in Cyprus somewhere? I'm not quite sure.
No. Second division, 2 Bundesliga, yeah.
Okay, he was literally a couple of steps up from a pub league somewhere. So now he's been thrust into Everton, and maybe around some Americans, maybe around some hardcore players, he'll be like the Edson Buddle that was scoring goals when David Beckham was around helping him for the Galaxy. So. Yeah, but he's 30 years old, isn't he, fellas? I mean, he's not going to
get any better. I think he's a step up from where he was with the Galaxy at this point, as far as producing, as far as being a overall quality player. My big question, and maybe you can help me out, this is: will he qualify for a work permit? That's been his issue with the year before. I forgot who he had a trial with, but and he sure as hell hasn't hit his 75% of U.S. call-ups.
But who has? Lately,
well,
who has?
I guess Klinsmann can always throw in a word like he did with Rogers, because Rogers fell short also.
Rogers, Buddle, Ream, John.
Johnson did as well. Actually.
John doesn't need
short too.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the thing is that I don't know what's happened to the whole work permit rules of 75%. Maybe you can explain it, Simon. But it just seems.
Need it. I mean, you can't get a job. Your mum or dad needs to be something else other than American to get any sort of work permit these days. And let's just be completely honest. In England they love cheap American players, but you not necessarily want to get you a permit to work there.
Yeah, but it seems like. It just seems like a lot of guys have been getting their permits. I mean, you look at Robbie Rogers. I guess that's already gone through. Tim Ream,
Right.
he hasn't played his 75%. He'll probably go through.
don't
Guzan
think
didn't have his 75% either. He went through as well.
Robbie Rogers has gone through. I don't know. I'm still hearing a few things, but we'll leave that to
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and as I say, Rogers, like I said, Rogers got JK's approval, and I think that might pull some strings. Who else did you mention?
I mentioned Tim Ream.
Tim
Guzan.
Ream once again could be somebody that Klinsmann could pull a couple strings for, because Ream was getting Ream was getting call ups under Bob Bradley. Now he's continually getting call ups under Klinsmann. You mentioned one more. What was the other one? Guzan. You said Guzan. Actually, Guzan was denied a work permit 1 year and ended up getting it the following year because Bob Bradley vouched that he's his number 2, but he's behind Tim Howard, where it's difficult to get caps. So,
But see,
again, these are all just like coaches that are pulling strings for the
they're
players.
all exceptions to the rule. That's the point.
Yeah.
Well, no, like I said, there's the U.S. Soccer, Major League Soccer, and obviously Jurgen Klinsmann need to promote themselves as viable entities in world soccer. They're going to pull a few strings, like you said, and Robbie Rogers is the darling right now. So I don't think it is. I don't think it has been decided that he's going to play for in England, but it's more than likely going to happen.
Yeah.
The other, I mean, who's going to Bolton? I'm forgetting all these
Tim
people
Ream.
now.
Tim Ream.
Yeah.
Tim Ream, I think he's a classic example of just an average, in my opinion, an average player that's just got a boost from U.S. Soccer, just so they can move him on as a centre back for some team in England.
Yeah.
So I think that's the one you got to. I think most people have to look at and say, is this guy just a poster child for U.S. Soccer, or is he good? Forget about what the junky sort of play he had at New York. Is he going to explode in Europe? And I think that'll be, out of all these guys, that's the one I want to look at.
Well, yeah, and we'll get to Tim Ream in a second because
sorry.
no, that's all right. I mean, he had a rough season. There's no doubt about it.